When you're a soldier in the United States Army, there's definitely some moments that are great and some moments that are not so great. And that's kind of what I want to highlight in this video. I hope that when you watch these videos, you don't think that I'm trying to tell you that the United States Army is the greatest thing there ever was, right? It can have some great moments, and sometimes it can have some not so great moments. And today I want to focus on 5 of those not so great moments, some times that you're probably going to complain about being in the United States Army. And that video starts right now. Of course, there are more than just simply 5 things that you're going to experience that suck. I mean, hopefully that you have some combination of good and bad and everything, but I kind of wanted to focus on this video on some things that are very common to individuals in the Army that are going to be things that you complain about, things that suck or whatever. You know, some things that are horrible don't happen to every soldier. So in this video, I wanted to really highlight on some things that are pretty common to soldiers, right? Regardless of your experience, you're probably going to experience these 5 at some point in your Army career. So that's mainly what I kind of wanted to focus on, all right? So we'll get into the top 5, no particular order really, but let's get into the first one. That first one is guard duty of some sort. That can come in a lot of different forms, though. That can come in the form of like staff duty, CQ. Those 2 are pretty common, but even at basic training, you have what's called fire guard, and that's kind of like a guard duty. And then there's a lot of other different types of guard duty. But nonetheless, that guard duty, it's not usually fun. I mean, there might be some moments where you can have some fun times on guard, you know, or certain things as being a guard for this is fun, but the majority, like the main common ones, that's gonna be CQ and staff duty, and those ones aren't usually very fun. So they can really drag out and kind of just wear on you. Because when you're doing staff duty or CQ, that's usually 24 hours. You're doing 24 hours of sitting at a desk. Now, thankfully, they do have a lot of units that are not forcing soldiers to stay awake for that entire 24 hours. There's some units that are starting to implement some policies where they're requiring soldiers to get at least a minimum of 4 hours of sleep during the night when there's nothing going on, which is great, but not all units are doing that. There are still a lot of units that are still requiring soldiers to stay awake for 24 hours. And so if you're stuck in one of those units, then it's a little bit rougher. I mean, typically, you don't usually stay awake for that entire 24 hours. There's often times where we might work something out. You know, you're trying to slip off to go take a little power nap for 30 minutes, an hour, or whatever. That may happen, but otherwise, technically, you know, those units that aren't implementing the sleep schedule type of thing into the CQ or staff duty, they're supposed to stay awake for that 24 hours. Now, I know a lot of you think that, oh, cool, if I was stuck on 24 hours, I would probably sit there at a desk and play video games, maybe watch some movies or whatever, and usually that's not a thing that's usually allowed. I mean, we usually did it, you know, later in the night when there's no leadership around, they're all home and everything, sleeping, whatever. Sure, the laptop comes out, the movies come out, and you can watch some movies or whatever, but technically they're supposed to, you know, stay awake and stay alert, and, you know, them playing video games or watching movies doesn't allow them to stay focused on their task of like keeping watch over the barracks or over that staff duty, you know, desk, you know, at the battalion area or the brigade. So they're usually not allowed to do that stuff. We do it anyways, but nonetheless, it can be pretty boring. Now, of course, the next day, you get it off, right? I won't go all into CQ staff duty. I actually have a dedicated video on that if you really want to learn about that, but that's a pretty common one, especially the reason why people may complain about like having staff duty or CQ is like what day it falls on. Especially you get staff duty or CQ like on a Saturday. Well, your whole Saturday is spent sitting there at that desk, and then your Sunday you're supposed to kind of recover from being awake. So you spend about half of it sleeping and don't really get a whole great chance to go out and do stuff or whatever because you spent half the day sleeping. Especially if you're, you know, you got people that want to go party and everything on the weekend. Well, probably kind of ruins your party plan. So that's mainly one of the common things that people, you know, like to complain about when it comes to staff duty and CQ is the day that it falls on. I mean, you can kind of suck it up and just deal with sitting at a desk for 24 hours. It's boring. You're going to complain about it nonetheless, but that's usually the bigger complaint is what day you happen to get staff duty or CQ. So just be aware. That's the first one. That's probably a common thing you're going to get stuck with, and you're going to probably complain about it. Second one, number 2, a pretty common thing that you probably are aware of in the United States Army, and that's urinalysis. That's a piss test. They're going to drug test you, and you're probably aware that you're going to get drug tested. Everybody probably knows that you're going to get drug tested, but nonetheless, the drug test itself, it sucks. It happens sometimes at random times. Sometimes situations that involve with that drug test make it something that you're going to complain about, something that sucks. So when you have to do like these urinalysis, these piss tests, the drug tests, right? A lot of times it's early in the morning. Maybe you first show up to first formation and they start calling off some names of some individuals. And if you're one of those individuals that get called off, then you got to go inside the building and you can't leave until you have to pee. And Maybe you already went to the bathroom before you showed up for formation. Maybe you didn't. But if you did, now you got to sit there and drink a lot of water to try to build it back up and hopefully be able to pee within a reasonable time. So that way you can get the hell out of there, go get something to eat, do whatever it is you got to do. Otherwise, you're kind of stuck there until you do have to pee. And the big complaint that kind of sucks, especially like when you have larger ones, like they do 100%, 50%. And so there's a lot of individuals that have to pee and you don't have to pee. So then you're kind of trying to drink a lot of water to try to build it up. So hopefully eventually you will be able to pee, but then it ends up being a situation where a lot of other people were in that same situation as you. And now they all have to pee at the same time as you do. And the line gets really long. And now you got to pee really bad by the time it gets a little closer to your turn. And you're like, crap, I got to hold it because I got to go pee in that damn cup. I have seen some times where we had a bunch of us in that situation where the line ended up getting pretty big, and all these people got to pee really bad. And there were some people that just couldn't wait. They were like, screw it, I can't wait. I'm going to go use the bathroom, go pee, because it's going to take too long before I get up to the front of the line to be able to go pee in the cup. Go pee and get back to drinking water, I guess. And hopefully the line won't be as long when I do have to pee the next time. And that definitely sucks. But let's move into number 3. And number 3 is last minute taskings. Is basically what that means is that maybe it's like 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 10 minutes from the normal time you might be expecting to get ready to go home. Then all of a sudden someone comes around, your leadership, somebody says, hey, we got to get this done. And you're mad that it was a last minute thing where maybe you weren't doing much of anything earlier in the day. And you're like, why didn't you let us know we had to do this earlier in the day? Because we could have easily knocked it out and probably still gotten to go home at a decent time. But now last minute taskings got us stuck late. Now we have to stay here an extra hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever, until it's accomplished. And if you're thinking that like, oh, that's not a thing in the Army anymore. I mean, yeah, I'm not in the Army anymore, but I'm still around soldiers. And my job, I see this. I see soldiers getting stuck with last minute taskings because I teach a class on Fort Carson. And there are a lot of times where I have soldiers that show up to my class and they're like, yeah, they just told me about this class this morning that I had to be here. And I got appointments, which that screws up them being able to do the class and screws up how I have to teach and everything else like that. When I know that this class has been on the calendar for like a month, 2 months, whatever the case was, but the leadership somehow did not tell the soldiers that they were going to this class until the day of the class. And so they come to my class and they're like, yeah, I just found out today that I had this class. A great point kind of along with that, I had a recent soldier that may be watching this video, I don't know, but he just found out like 2 days before the promotion board that his unit was going to send him to the promotion board. And he's in that class. So he has to take this class and he has to try to kind of mitigate it to where he can, still go to the board, but yet not miss any class time type of thing. But still, nonetheless, the big part that kind of really sucks with that was the last minute finding out he's going to the promotion board. So he didn't really have much time to prepare for that promotion board, which kind of led to the failure of it. I mean, I guess good practice, but nonetheless, the leadership kind of failed him on that and told him 2 days before. So now you don't have a lot of time to practice the content for the board, because sometimes you'll find out what the subjects are, making sure you're good with the NCO creed, which, some people may make the argument that you should always be good with the NCO creed. Okay, sure, but it's probably not realistic. It's not going to really happen. Nobody really all the time, unless you're really high speed. Yeah, sure, cool, maybe you do, but to be really good with the NCO creed, to be able to do it during the NCO board is, still takes some practice, even if you think you know it pretty well, and all the other topics, right? Whatever the other topics are. But also, I mean, even outside of that, it's just having your uniform ready, right? Because you got to have your uniform ready and making sure everything's squared away. And 2 days, last minute kind of a thing, it sucks. You have to kind of jump through some hoops and rush things, and it still happens, even in today's Army. Next up, I got the 4th one, and that is hurry up and wait. That is a pretty common term you may hear in the United States Army. You've heard it maybe from veterans or whatever, hurry up and wait. And basically is what that means is you have to hurry up, be somewheres, and then you're stuck waiting for a long time. Now, I'll explain about it, but I do also have a shirt related to it if you want to check it out in the store, right? Maybe a picture pops up, right? Got this cool hurry up and wait champion shirt. If you want to get that, you can check out the link down in the description box down below. But essentially what hurry up and wait actually means is there are common situations where this happens. Like maybe you're getting ready to go to the field, and so they tell you that you have to be in at like 3 a.m, 4 a.m, something really early in the morning, okay? But then you go and you draw weapons, you head over to your vehicles, and you're not actually leaving to go to the field until like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. And so you got there super early at, let's say, 5 a.m, 4 a.m, 3 a.m, whatever, drew your weapons, got all ready, and then just sat around and waited for several hours before you finally actually took off to go to the field. That is literally what hurry up and wait is. Now, You can say that it is for somewhat of a reason and somewhat of a purpose, right? Because let's say in that scenario, right, we're all supposed to be there, at 3 o'clock in the morning to draw weapons, and then we're not going to leave to go out in the field until 9 o'clock in the morning. But for whatever reason, there was some hiccups in there where certain equipment wasn't working. Maybe some soldiers didn't show up on time, or other kind of things that kind of screwed up the system, then you got plenty of hours to try to fix that before you take off. Because probably if it was a thing where we were leaving at 9 o'clock and then we just told everybody to show up at 8 o'clock, now you don't have a lot of time for mistakes. And if there's mistakes in there, now you're probably going to miss that time that you were supposed to take off to go to the field, and now you're going to be late. So sure, it does somewhat have a point to it. Does it suck? Sure, it sucks, but it does kind of have a point to it to allow for room for mistake or the unexpected, so that way you can still make mission on time. And there's probably like a lot more examples of like moments where you have to hurry up and wait. It's a common thing that will happen in the Army. You're probably going to have some point in time where you're going to have to be somewhere really early, sit around, do nothing, and wait for it to actually kick off and do some stuff. But nonetheless, let's go into number 5, because number 5 is sort of related to that, and that's going to the field. The field can have some fun moments. Sometimes it can be cool to go to the field, right? Sometimes it's, especially like if you really like your job, you really like your MOS, and you're eager to want to do it, and do some kind of practice with it, then the field is a great opportunity to be able to actually do that. But nonetheless, there's still a lot of aspects of the field that still suck. So whether you're going out on the field for 1 week, 2 weeks, a whole month, right? Because that can happen too. Sometimes maybe even longer in some scenarios. Most common, max length is usually around a month, like when you're going to the National Training Center at Fort Irwin, or if you're going to JRTC, over in Louisiana. So, those ones can usually be a little bit longer. Sometimes they can be as short of just 4 days, 5 days type of thing. But there's definitely some aspects in there of going to the field that can definitely suck at times. I'll give you a few of those examples, right? Your sleeping arrangements, right? Your sleeping arrangements probably not going to be anything close to as comfortable as it is at home, because you're probably going to be living inside of a tent. You probably got a tent with a cot and a bunch of other soldiers inside that tent with you. Some of those soldiers may be dirty soldiers. Some of those, maybe, heavy snorers, so they're snoring during the night and keeping you awake, or they're coming in and out because they have to go to the bathroom or have to go smoke, or they're coming back from mission or whatever, so it's not quite as, comfortable as a living arrangement at home. There can be some scenarios where it's pretty nice, right? Or maybe your field problem takes you to a complex and you got these rooms that you're staying in during that field problem, and it's not really the real field, right? The real field is you're roughing it out there in a tent, with a bunch of soldiers on a cot. So sleeping arrangements a lot of times suck in the field. You can even talk to some soldiers and they're like, a tent? That must be nice. I had to sleep outside. I had to sleep on a truck. And sometimes that still happens even in the field currently today. Typically they want you in a safe environment, so hopefully you don't get ran over by another vehicle, that doesn't see you. But you could be in a case where you have to sleep inside your vehicle, inside your track vehicle, But the sleeping arrangements, regardless, you may be infantry, you may be a cook, you may be an 88 mic, sleeping arrangements typically aren't the greatest. The food would be another kind of example, right? Normally when you're not in the field, you have options. Even as a single soldier, you can go to the chow hall and they have like a whole variety of different types of foods you can choose from and when you want to pick to eat. And if for whatever reason you don't like them, then you can just go to a restaurant, go get something and pick it up and take it back to your room, whatever. So you got a lot of options that you don't get in the field. In the field, they're going to have cooks, and sometimes you get maybe breakfast, maybe you get dinner. Often, lunch will be an MRE, but it's not the same selection like you get when you're not in the field, because you go up to where the dining facility people have like a chow hall, a little mobile kitchen kind of set up, and it's probably just one set meal. You only have really one option for that day, and so they kind of change up the menu each day. But there's no other option. You have that one option, and if you want to eat, cool. If you don't, then here's an MRE, and you can eat the MRE. But MREs are okay-ish. They're probably not a great thing to eat off, to use for a source of food all the time, but sure, you can eat it. And then there's some individuals that, depend on what's going on, maybe they just are stuck eating MREs for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So the field food arrangements isn't always the greatest because you don't get that wide selection. I mean, sometimes you can bring snacks, and you usually find out that those snacks don't last you as long as you thought they were going to last you, and you end up going through them within the first several days. And then kind of like one last thing I'll mention with the field usually kind of sucking is that, the hours. It's not usually the same type of hours like when you're not in the field. You're back in the rear, you maybe have a common schedule of, 6:30 PT, and then you go to work at 9, and then taking lunch at 11:30 to 1, and then off by 4:30, 5, 6, whatever kind of a thing, where in the field, it's kind of supposed to be training as if you're in a combat zone, and there's missions that are happening at night, there's missions that are happening later in the evening, missions that are happening early in the morning. So the hours are just all over the place sometimes in the field. So sleep kind of gets a little bit challenging at times because maybe you're getting very little sleep, or maybe it's just hectic, right? You're sitting around doing nothing during the day and then doing a bunch of stuff during the night, or maybe the opposite, right? So it kind of just gets kind of crazy with the schedule because, there's missions that are popping up all over the place, different taskings and different things you have to do while you're in the field to kind of simulate this combat environment and things that kind of need to happen. But those are the 5 that I wanted to mention. And of course, I said that there's more than just those simple 5. There's several other things that maybe even are pretty common to soldiers, some that are a little bit less common to you, and maybe only, certain individuals will experience that. But I feel like these 5 that I mentioned are things that every soldier is going to go through at some point in time in their Army career, whether that's a 4-year contract or you're going to stay in for a long time, do 20 plus years, then you're going to do these things multiple times. But every soldier at some point in their Army career, especially on active duty, are going to experience this. Sure, if you're going Reserves National Guard, you may not experience any of these or maybe 1 or 2 of these, but active duty guys, and girls, you're going to experience all of this. Now, for my viewers out there that are currently in the United States Army, maybe veterans out there, I want to hear some comments down in the comment section down below. What are some additional things that you think are very common to every soldier that they're going to experience at some point in their Army career that sucks? Just to give those people a heads up. And then maybe for those of you out there that have not yet joined the Army, got some questions about some of these topics that I talked about, ask them down in the comment section down below. And if I can answer them, I'll try to answer them. If not, maybe some of my viewers can answer them. So make sure you're dropping those comments down in the comment section down below, even just for the YouTube algorithm purposes. Drop something in there. Say hi. Say what's up. Let me know what you're doing this weekend. Let me know what you got going on this week. Whatever, right? Leave me a comment. Love to read them. Of these top 5, my probably biggest pet peeve one that I hated was last minute taskings. There'd be a lot of times where, just information didn't trickle down in time to us. And so we'd find out about these things that got to get done last minute. And you're like, that's stupid. Why didn't you tell me about this earlier? This is something that just suddenly we decided to do. Now I got to go and not go home, not go back to the barracks, on time and do the stuff that I want to do tonight. I got to go do this stupid task. And sometimes it'll even make you mad because it'll be like a thing that hey, we need to do this now. And it's like, why do we need to do it now? Why can't this just wait until tomorrow? Is it really that critical that we couldn't just do this tomorrow? And sometimes, sure, maybe it might be a thing where it can't wait until tomorrow, but there probably was some times where it could have waited until tomorrow, and that would always drive me nuts. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you had a good time, you smiled a little bit during this video, maybe you got some great information out of this video, you got something useful out of this video, make sure to show it some love. Hit that thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel so you can continue receiving content from yours truly. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for watching. I'm Christopher Chaos, and I'll see you next time. See ya. Now, before you go taking off, I got a video right here. YouTube has selectively chosen this specially for you personally, and you should go watch this because you're gonna hurt their feelings if you don't watch it. You're gonna hurt my feelings if you don't go watch it. So click on this video, go watch it.